I'm Colonel Heila Niemand. I'm in the South African Police Service, stationed at head office, working in the investigation policy standards for crime investigation. But background is, I've joined the South African Police Service when I was like 17 years old, turned 18 in the police college. When I arrived back at the station where I actually was placed, I said, well, this is not going to be for me, and I would like to investigate cases, crimes against women and children. At that stage, it was crimes against children because it was called the Child Protection Unit. So I started my career as an investigating officer in 1993. Being like 19 years old, and I said, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to investigate cases against children. So that's where my career started. And I was stationed in Krugersdorp, the Westfront area, investigating all cases against children. And my career continued, and I never left the section. From Child Protection Unit, it actually went to the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit, where we started to focus more on crimes against women, whereby in that time, crimes against women was dealt by the normal general detective. Unfortunately, as one progresses in your career, you want promotion because you feel that you've stuck in a line and you're not getting promoted, specifically in the field where you have to investigate crimes against women and children. It always felt, and I think most of you will agree with me, that if you work in a field where you have to protect children and women, you're left behind. Because you know what? You will remain there because that's your passion. We don't have to look at you because this is just where you will stay. We'll rather focus on the monetary cases. We'll focus on our stock theft cases. We'll focus on our robberies. Crimes against the human, but when it comes to the sensitive cases, it's overlooked. And I'm going to be blunt and straightforward because we know there are so many policies. There are so many standing operating procedures, there are instructions, there are white papers, there are this. But at the end of the day, no one is adhering to those policies. No, they go to Parliament and they go to all these different high levels meetings and they will discuss, and it's a priority, crimes against women and children is a priority and we must focus on this. Really? If you go down to the ground, is that really what's happening? Is that the priority? Is that the focus point? Unfortunately, it's not. And I'm just going to be straightforward. I mean, I'm a government official. I work in the South African Police Service. I've been in the line of protecting women and children since I was 19. I know exactly what's going on. So for us in the police, if you want to get promotion, you have to go to a different field, although that's your passion. I've been in a fortunate position to land it up at our Gauteng provincial office because I've dealt with the first child pornography case in South Africa. Convicted the choir master in the Drakensberg for sexually assaulting 17 boys. Case were closed. I'm not just giving you a quick background. Cases were all withdrawn because the boys felt that, I can't go to court and testify about what happened to me. The focus point now is on girls, not us as men, and I'm going to be too ashamed. I'm going to feel ashamed to go to court and tell exactly what this guy did to me. So what happens is I pulled all that old cases. I went to see the boys, and I actually sat with them, and we went through the whole process, and they reopened all the cases against this specific choir master. We got a conviction. That guy ended up in prison for 25 years. Just the beginning. So I actually then thought that, I actually want to focus more on cybercrime, our child pornography, crimes against children that actually get abused, and all those images and videos are shared online. And I never thought that in South Africa we've got this big problem. Never. I thought, we've got our rape, we've got our sexual assault, and that's actually where you have to go out. You see your victim, you interview your victim, you follow the process of investigation, and you go to court with this case. But underneath, it was all these, really sickening predators that are actually targeting our vulnerable kids and they will sexually assault them, take videos of them, and then sell them to everyone all over the world. So for the first time ever, I was sent to the USA. I received training by the FBI, specifically in the field of investigating online crimes against children. And then I realized that, we are sitting with so many predators in South Africa, that I thought, we've got predators that actually will just go out and physically sexually assault and rape our children and women. But it wasn't true. I mean, we actually are sitting with so many people that goes online, people that you will never expect. Your neighbor, your friend's husband, you'll think he's this outstanding guy in the community, whereby he's the guy that will sit in his study and he will go online and view all these gruesome images. So this is where my career started, specifically passion for the online crimes against children. And then after 4 years in that specific line, I applied for promotion. I was actually the one person that was called in by our previous National Police Commissioner, Ria Pehega. I explained to her exactly what I'm doing. Our team was actually running through the whole of South Africa. I don't know if you actually saw all the news headings of all the guys that were arrested, and specifically an operation called Cloud9. That was my operation. I got the FBI in, I got the Belgium law enforcement in, and we really made a huge impact in South Africa. But unfortunately, the saddest part is, the more you go out there and you show that this is your passion and you get results, there's so many other people that feels like, you're a lady, you only at that stage, I was a lieutenant colonel, you can't get all this glamour and success, and you are outshining a lot of other people, and it wasn't even about outshining. If you've got your passion and you are driven to do a specific task, that you don't care about anything else. You just want to go out and save more children and just get more predators and put them away. Unfortunately, I was promoted, not in the field, reasons, and then I was actually taken out of that field and placed into this policy section. So what do? I mean, if organizations or a lot of universities asked me to come and give training on this specific topic, I said, sorry, I'm not allowed to touch them anymore. I'm not allowed to investigate any crimes against women and children anymore, because I was told, you're in the policy section now, and this is where you will remain. So then, unfortunately, I love my job. This is my career. I'm not going to go against them and say, well, sorry for you, So what I will do is, please don't record this. I will still, if anyone phones me, I will still go and investigate and try to assist without anyone knowing. And that's so sad, because, we're here, and it's about our children. It's about our children, and it's about the people, especially our children, because they are the people without voices. So it's going to stand up for them, not the guys writing the policies. So I know now I'm in the field, and I must write policies. And yes, to start with the presentation, I've spent so much time now clicking. Okay. So, thank you. I'm going to start quickly. So I'm just going to rush through this. I know that time is against us. It contains a bit of legislation, but it's also good. We must have legislation and policies in place to guide us and actually to Okay. I'm just going to go on quickly. Sexual violence is any sexual act, attempt to obtain a sexual act, unwanted sexual comments or advances, or acts to traffic or otherwise directed against a person's sexuality using coercion by any person, regardless of the relationship to the victim, in any setting, including but not limited to home and work. Although accurate statistics are difficult to obtain for many reasons, including the fact that most incidents of GBV are not reported, It is evident South Africa has particularly high rates of GBV, including VAWG and violence against our LGBT people. Whilst people of all genders perpetrate and experience intimate partner and sexual violence, men are most often the perpetrators and women and children the victims. More than half of all the women murdered, 56%, and that was only in 2009, and it definitely has increased now. And they were killed by an intimate male partner. Between 25% and 40% of South African women have experienced sexual and or physical intimate partner violence in their lifetime. Just under 50% of women report having ever experienced emotional or economical abuse at the hands of the intimate partners in their lifetime. Prevalence estimates of rape in South Africa range between 12 to 18% of women ever reporting being raped in their lifetime. Between 28 and 37% of adult men reporting having raped a woman. South Africa also faces a high prevalence of gang rape. Most men who rape do so for the first time as teenagers, and almost all men who ever rape do so by the mid-20s. I can just maybe highlight the fact when we investigated the cases against the children, the online crimes, you will get your perpetrators from the age of 17 to 85. So, it just shows you that, it doesn't matter what the age is. They won't go out and physically maybe sexually assault or rape a woman, but they will sit in the private space and they will actually view sexually explicit material. There's a limited research into rape targeting women who have sex with women. One study across 4 southern non-partner SVs is particularly common, but reporting to police is very low. One African country, including South Africa, found that 31% of women reported having experienced forced sex. Male victims of rape are another understudied group. One survey in KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape found that 9.6% of men reported having experienced sexual victimization by another man. Reasons for not reporting GBV include the fear of stigma and discrimination. We all know that. Someone who has been raped may be seen as unclean, and still it still happens. Although we have so many focus on specific gender-based violence and, a lot of NGOs and the community outreach to actually speak to our women and say, listen here, but it's not your fault. Don't feel like you have to be shy to go and report it. But still, you get a lot of women that don't want to go and report the sexual violation. She will be blamed for what has happened to her and may experience discrimination. Also blame. Society expects girls and women to be able to avoid sexual violence, including rape. In any form of sexual violence occurs, society often blames the woman for the way she behaves and dresses. That will never go away. That stigma will always remain, with our community and especially our men. Just going to run quickly the types of violence. We've got our physical violence, that is beating, biting, kicking, restraining, pulling hair, choking, throwing objects, using weapons, psychologically insulting, yelling, recalling past mistakes, constant criticism, expressing negative expectations, humiliation, denying opportunities, and discriminating. Sexual is harassment, touching sexual parts of girls' woman's body, touching in a sexual manner against the will of the girl or the woman, rape, use of a weapon to force into a sexual act, forced prostitution, and then our sexual trafficking. Now, workplace violence is an important subdivision of violence which describes any act in which a person is abused, threatened, intimidated, or assaulted in his or her workplace. Rumors, swearing, verbal abuse, pranks, arguments, property damage, vandalism, sabotage, pushing, theft, physical. There's so many different crimes that actually violate our employees in the workplace. It includes communication or behavior which cause others to fear for their safety and includes sexual violence and workplace bullying. It is in any act where a person is abused, threatened, intimidated, sexually harassed, or assaulted in his or her workplace. Domestic violence in the workplace is often perpetrated by someone who is not an employee or a former employee. This type of incident often occurs because the abuser knows exactly where his or her spouse or friend will be during working hours. Women are targeted more frequently than men. Just a quick example is of the incident where the ex-boyfriend actually pitched up to his girlfriend's work. I mean, now we've got all these policies in place in your specific work environment, but what about your partner that just, rubs up and says, listen, yeah, I'm here to see so-and-so, walks to the reception, yeah, sure, you walk out, you don't want to cause a scene, exactly, you're actually now scared of this guy, but now you feel safer because you're at your workplace. I mean, she walked out with her ex-boyfriend and he just shot her outside. So, yes, there can be so many different types of different policies in your workplace, but you're not really protected, if you go out. I mean, it was the ex-boyfriend, he walks in, still you allow your employer to go out without any protection or whatsoever. As well, we see it so often if, especially with police officers as well. Being in the government, working in the police, you trust your colleagues. You trust that, Samantha and her husband. But, so you think, if they can rock up to a police station and have a quarrel in the office, nothing's going to happen. But that's exactly where most of the incidents occur, that you'll just the guy will just draw a firearm, kill his wife, or maybe if he have learned that she's got a affair or whatsoever, he will just go out and, kill his other colleagues. In another incident, on a duty police official murdered his wife near the entrance of the Voorpoort Primary School in June. She was attending an informal school governing body introduction session when she was gunned down in full view of the school staff and management. Ideological workplace violence is directed at an organization, its people, property for ideological, religious, or political reasons. The violence is perpetrated by the extremist and value-driven groups justified by their beliefs. A number of factors contribute to the prevalence of workplace violence, including individual factors, consist of age and gender. Women are at particular risk of violence in the workplace as they operate dominantly in many of the high-risk occupations, particularly as teachers, social workers, nurses, as well as working banks and shops. The continued segregation of women in low-paid and low-status jobs, while men prevail in better-paid, higher-status jobs and supervisory positions, also contributes to this problem. Nevertheless, men tend to be at great risk of physical assault, while women are particularly vulnerable to incidents of a sexual nature, such as sexual harassment and rape appearing to be particularly associated with an enhanced risk of violence. Workers who deal directly with the public, such as those who are the interface between the organization and the general public, have an increased risk of exposure to violence. The effects of workplace violence include reduced productivity, increased turnover, absenteeism, counseling expenses, decreased staff morale, reduced quality of life, disability, sleeplessness, as well as the long-term physical, personal, emotional, and professional effects. The effect of workplace violence may vary from one individual to the next and may take different forms such as sleep disturbances, anxiety, tearfulness, shock, and depression, as well as flashbacks. Employers need to familiarize themselves with the legislative principles, including policies and procedures of violence in the workplace, which need to be implemented to deal with and prevent violence at the workplace. The best method for protecting employees from workplace violence is to adopt a zero-tolerance policy against it, with no exceptions. It must be clear that violence committed by or against employees will not be tolerated. Each employee should understand that claims of workplace violence will be thoroughly investigated and sustained. Claims of violence will result in immediate suspension and or dismissal. And I think it's just fair, in every organization or wherever you work, there can't be any tolerance when it comes specifically to sexual harassment or sexual violation in our workplace. We must just stand and say, listen here, this is unacceptable. There's no excuse, for any sexual abuse or behavioral harassment towards any of their employees in the company. The most important regulations, I'm not going to go through here, it's just our normal basic labor relations, our basic conditions, Employment Act, Employment Equity Act, all these type of legislations that is actually supposed to be in your working place. I'm just going to skip. Pardon?
The time.
Okay, I'm quickly running through this because this presentation is available. It actually specifies the specific legislations. Let me go quickly run through this. It's a nice read. At the end of the day, what I can say is that we all know there's supposed to be policies and there's supposed to be your normal instructions that governance your safety in your workplace. But it's very important for each and every person to assess your colleague. I mean, you have to have a risk assessment. You've got your HR in place. You've got your people that you must report to should you maybe suspect of any specific abuse. But it's also important for each and every individual working with your colleague, working with a friend, not to have like, I don't know what is the correct English word, but you know, to have, what do you call something on the eyes that's like a blinding, you're blind to see what's happening to your colleague. You don't want to see, because you know, I don't want to get involved. It is your responsibility as well to see and to speak out. I mean, if you know about anyone in your working environment, or you suspect that, you know, this woman, you know, something has changed, even with the men, you know, if you don't want to go and speak to the person directly, then at least report it to someone, because you never know what that person might be going through. And maybe it is a boss or anyone that she doesn't want to actually disclose any information to you, but it's a responsibility of each of us to take note of your colleague and your friend's behavior, and it's our responsibility to be there for others, especially for us as women. It's very difficult, I know, but you know, let us be there for our fellow friends and colleagues and women, and let's make a difference together, because we can't do it on our own. Not the police, not any other government department, not the NGOs. It's our personal responsibility to make sure that we are all safe, our children are safe, our neighbors and friends and each and every colleague are respected. So that's it. Thank you.